sometimes that gets a little heavy, like, oh my gosh, there are so many problems in this world. How can I ever solve them? And the answer is, of course, you cannot. But there's also another side. Technology can bring us hope. It brings us ways to bring reconciliation. And you remember I talked about that last time. I'm going to just grab a PowerPoint here to look at. Let's see, where are we? Let's see, this one. We'll go here. And then we'll just, yes. Okay, I wanted to remind you of the beginning of this section when we talked about community development and technology and so on. And this is the diagram that I so often think of. So I just want to remind you again, we are in the business of reconciliation. And that's there's a scripture here somewhere, I think I have. This one that says, that we are Christ's ambassadors and we are to be reconciled to God and then reconciled to everybody else too. And so this was what we talked about last time, that we need reconciliation and a deeper relationship with God. We need a relationship with others in the community. We need to have reconciliation with ourselves. And in this particular case, a reconciliation to creation so that we would be good stewards. So that's really a hope, because I think technology can provide a lot for us in that respect. So here we are talking, and today will be this kind of thing. We're going to just look and enjoy some of the possible directions that we might be able to go, potentially. As believers, there's technology available for us. So back to this slide about shalom. That's our job. We're to bring peace. We're to bring justice. And we can do that through science and tech. And we've talked already a little bit about some of the ways in which we could do that with water. What an amazing reconciliation that can be to bring wholeness. Often, we do medical work, but the reason for the medical work is because the water is not very good. And as a result, there's waterborne disease. If we could solve the water problem, we might solve a lot of the medical problems as well. So that's just a thought. But let's look at some other. I just want to give you a little bit of a glimpse of some of the things that could have been done that really amount to bringing kingdom values. This one is an amazing story. I believe this is from one of the YWAM ships in Africa. This lady, as I understand it, has a tumor in her head. She is not cancerous, but obviously it's been growing since she was a small child, and it has really disfigured her. You can see that. And because of that, she is kept in solitary confinement in a village. She's not allowed to go out because they're worried that she would scare the children because of the facial characteristics she had. What a terrible prospect she has. She has no prospect, really, for most of her life. And apparently, at some point or another, one of our ships was close by, and she was able to get an operation to remove that huge tumor in her head. And this is her. Can you believe this is the same woman after the operation and after she's healed? What a difference it has made to her life. She's now attractive. She could get married. She could have a family. This is really, truly redemption and hope brought through a technical process of surgery for her. So that's one of those redemption stories that I love, because it's so tangible, it's so real, it's right in front of your face. But here's another one. A friend of mine in Florida was born and raised in Ecuador in South America, and he's very Ecuadorian. He's not at all American, although his parents were American. He was completely raised in the Ecuadorian Amazon jungle. And one of the things he saw was the lack of good dental care for people in the remote villages. And I think if you've ever had a toothache or a tooth that breaks, it is extremely painful. And there's really nothing can be done about it if there's no one to work on people's teeth. And he saw that as a tremendous need. And he wondered if there was something he could do. He turned out to have a gift, the gift of inventing things. And he came up with this. It's a dental chair. You can see that. And it can be folded up like this and put onto a person's back. So it's quite easy to actually walk into the forest, into the jungle with this on your back, where there are no roads for anything else. You can go deep, deep, deep into the jungle and then set the thing up like this and be able to do dental work. But here's a key to this whole thing. You might think, oh, well, they would need to have a dentist come in every few months from the West and do lots and lots of fillings and extractions and then leave. He thought about it and thought, no, 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 no. These people that I work with and live with and was raised with are very, very creative and skilled. So he had a dentist come, not to do the work, but instead to train the workers. And he was able to train a number of these local people in terms of how they could do extractions and fillings. And he told me, he said, to be very honest, Dereck, the work and quality that I get from those people in the villages is usually better than what I get in the West. They are just artists almost in what they do. So again, like I say, I've traveled quite a bit, and I know I've been in some remote places, and I've met people who are constantly fighting with pain because their teeth are running out or they are broken. So this is wonderful, good news for people. And that's not the only invention he has. He has some others, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Think about this. Think about the difference that cell phones make in our world. Look at it like this. This is a very basic area. It's not it's not urban and it's not developed, but everybody has a cell phone. Look at this one. And I have one of those phones. Maybe you do too. It's just a phone. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't do my taxes or finances or the weather or anything. It just is a phone. And it's very simple, but it can do texting and it can do voice. And that means that people can be in contact with one another that never could be in contact before. And I remember that. I remember times I would go into the jungle in places like Indonesia. I would be gone for 2 weeks. Nobody would know where I was or could get in contact with me. But now, if I go with my phone, and everybody else has a phone. I can stay in contact with everybody. If I need to call a meeting, I just need to text and then say where we're going to meet. Everybody turns up. What a change that is. But here's one example I found recently. It was from Central America. It was a village that produced corn and a few other products. And once a week, one of the people from the village would go into the town to sell the corn. And the dealers in the town were always being dishonest. They would always give much less value than the product that he was trying to sell. In the end, not long after they had recognized that they were losing a lot, they were able to get cell phones. And one thing they could do, they could actually check the world price of the products that they were trying to sell, mostly corn. So before he got on the bus to go into the town, or when he got to the town, he would pick up an internet signal, and then he would check the world price of corn. Then he would go to the dealer and say, okay, we have this amount of corn. How much will you give? And of course, the dealer would always give him a very low price. And he would say, oh, no, no, no. This is the world price. We want the world price for this. As a result, their income doubled in the village. And they were able to do a lot more projects and run businesses in the village. It was transformational for them, and it brought justice where there had not been justice before. So that to me is very inspiring. So this is technology and shalom. They go together, they can. Now, how about transportation? This is a very unusual vehicle. The guy that did the dental chair also invented this. It's a car, you can see that. And it but there's more to it than that, actually. And this is the other part of the story. How about that?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's a car, but it's also a plane. It's a flying car, actually. And it doesn't need very much distance to take off and land. It's not like a normal plane that needs a long runway. It can land in a very short distance and take off. I wondered, being a little bit critical, I don't know, I was asking, do you always make it with this thing? Because what they do is they bring people who are medically challenged and they need to get to the hospital or the clinic from a remote village. They will strap them on the side of the vehicle. So they put them into a stretcher or hammock, and then they just strap it to the side of this building, this car. Sorry, and then they fly. I thought to myself, I probably would have a heart attack and die on the way. But it's. And I asked them the honest. I said, "Look, you've got to tell me the honest truth. You always make it." And they said, "No, not always." And I said, "What happens?" They said, "Well, there are times when we kind of mess up and we end up in a tree." So I said, "Okay, what's your record? Percentage wise?" And they said, "Well, it'll be 80%, 75% we're successful." And I said, "Oh, okay. So there is a bit of a risk." And they said, "Yeah, but there's a lot more risk if you need hospital care in an emergency. Wouldn't you take a chance in that case? Because at least you've got a 70 or 80% chance of getting there to the hospital, and you may have your life saved as a result." So that's an interesting idea, this flying car. And then they're using it now in the jungle in the Amazon, where my friend was born and raised. Now, here's another one. And this is a common problem in some countries. For instance, Cambodia and some countries also in Africa. There have been landmines left through war, and sometimes children playing will hit a landmine and they'll lose a limb. And that's what this is showing here, is people that have lost limbs due to mines that they've stepped on. That is part of the story for this organization called Swiss Ability. And I think Marcus would know this man, Roberto Augusta. He used to be in YWAM at the Brittany base. He used to run a worldview school for many years. I taught in that school. And then God really called him into this system, a very, very inexpensive system for producing artificial limbs for people that had lost limbs. And if I can make this work, I'd like to show you one of these examples. It's really quite remarkable, actually. So let me just see if I can pull it up. Let's see if I can make this work. Let's see, we've got Okay. I'm looking for, let's see. Okay. Sorry about the technicality here, but I'm not seeing. It's disappearing off the side and I can't see what it says, which is a bit of a challenge. Let me come back here. Okay, okay. I think I know what I need to do. Yes, there we go. Right. Have a look at this. This is pretty amazing. This is the result of one of these operations where they now have, these are two men. One has one artificial limb and the other one has two artificial limbs. If you can imagine what their life was like before they had the limbs, particularly the one with just two artificial limbs, imagine how he would be able to get around. He would have to be in a chair, a wheelchair, or he would have to just literally drag himself around. But look at this. This is pretty amazing.
جاي اخوان علي تعالي يا عالم
Now they want to see how fast they can really go.
لوكا جكة سريعة لوكا براهم جكة سريعة يا سريعة
Amazing.
الرجعة حمزة بوكس ما في بوكس ما في معانا 20 ثانية يلا بوكس مع حمزة طوالي بكزوا مع بعض هاي لا ما معك زمن تقلع معك 15 ثانية يلا اوكي اجلعوا يلا معك 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 3 بس.
Pretty amazing. For those people, that is the difference between death and life in terms of what they're able to do now that they couldn't do before. It's absolutely wonderful to me. I mean, that's technology used to bring redemption, to bring improvement, to bring peace. I think it's just pretty remarkable. So Roberto is he was with YWAM Bertoni for a number of years, and then eventually he left to start this company called Swissability, which actually has won quite a number of awards in Switzerland for the work that they're doing, and they've increased their reach into Jordan and a few other countries. Really remarkable, I think. And here's another one, I'm just bouncing around here to show you some of the possibilities for technology. What about this one? Linguistics. This is, you remember, I think, that the way linguistics used to be done, there would be a man like this man here, probably from the developed world, who would go into a village or a community and learn their language, and then he would translate the Bible. And that would take probably somewhere around 10 years to do that. But look at this. This is a different approach. This is the local people themselves, the people in the village, and they are learning, they are actually putting the language into written form by this computer program that has been written that looks at objects and they ask, what is this? What is this? How do you say this? How do you do this? And in a very, very short time, they're able actually to put their own language into a written form. And then from there, goes from a written form into the scriptures. So this is really big. And you know that YWAM is really big on Bible translation. And we can talk a little bit more about that in terms of the future, but a little bit down the road. So there you are, another way to do Bible translation. What about agriculture? We're just bouncing around looking at all different kinds of things. What about this? Have you ever heard of the Korean natural farm technique? I don't know. But the soil that we use to grow stuff has microbes in it that give health to the plants. You can increase the microbe concentration by growing the microbes up outside of the soil and then adding them to the soil. And the result is spectacular growth of plants. And it was invented by a man in Korea. His name is Mr. Cho, Dr. Cho. And this is the kind of result that you get. Wonderful, really beautiful plants and vegetables. Look at this. So putting the microbes in the soil. This is not the only way of doing this, by the way. There are 3 or 4 different techniques that even YWAM uses. One called farming God's way, another one called permaculture, and then Korean natural farming. But they all have the same purpose. That is to improve the health of the soil by encouraging the microbes there to grow. And then those microbes will actually feed the plants and increase the yield. So it's really quite something. And here's another use for this, because you can put that same material that you've grown up, you can put it into a layer of rice husks or some other dead grass or something like that, usually at least 1 foot deep, maybe more. So half a meter deep. And then you put this, that same material, you put that into the soil. And it is amazing because now you have these pigs or other animals living on top of this layer, and there's no smell at all. And in fact, the other thing about it is you don't have to ever change it. It's like a living system, and the excrement, the waste from the animals, is part of that system. Now, sometimes people, maybe after a year, will clean that out and replace it because they want that earth, because they can use it as a fertilizer. But it is a remarkable system. Actually, you know, we talked about India. Several are from India. I was there a few years back in the northeast, and I went to a farm set on a hillside, and they had these pig pens, probably 30 or 40 of them, all connected together in a chain. And they were using this method to grow the animals, the pigs. There was absolutely no smell at all. It's pretty remarkable. So it's these kinds of technologies that can really make a big difference in terms of production of food and the improvement of the quality of animals being kept. Now, here's another one of those injustice issues, which many of you will know about, and that's cooking. And this one actually, I think, is from, I'm not sure where it's from. It's either India or it's Asia.
Are you also showing your PowerPoint? Because we're not able to see.
Say that again.
Are you also sharing your PowerPoint and pictures? Because we're not.
Yes.
Able to see that.
Oh, you're not seeing the PowerPoint?
I think
Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't know that. Yes.
Like 24. Yeah, I mean, I thought.
Okay, let me see what I can do here. Thank you for letting me know about that. Let me see what I can do.
After the video.
I think if I need to go back to sharing.
Yes.
I think that was the problem. Okay, here we go. Share. And then we go to the PowerPoint, I think. I'm so sorry about that. That was unfortunate. Let me see what we have here. Okay, I just have to make a little change here, so don't go away. Let me work on this a second. I just need to change something here. Okay. Here we go. Right, now back to where we were. And I think we can share. And I think we can go here. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, good. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I need to go back on some parts here to. You saw, obviously, you saw the movie.
Yeah.
And then did you see this?
No, I think from here we did it.
Okay. This is translation, Bible translation. This is a translator, but he's not doing the translation. He's got local village people doing it instead. So that's a major breakthrough in terms of the amount of time it takes and the accuracy of what they translate. And then this was what I was talking about was this Korean natural farming liquid that is produced by taking some of the soil, adding sugar, and then letting it incubate to produce this very strong microbial solution that can then be put into soil and produce wonderful crops like this. That's pretty big. It's bigger than the lady, I think, actually. It's pretty amazing. But it's the secret is that the microbes need to produce healthy soil. If you can encourage the microbes to grow, then you will get this kind of result. And this is the one that I was talking about with pigs. This is a system where you've got, like I said, about 1/2 meter of solid stuff, rice husks, straw, whatever, and then you actually put that solution into that soil, and it will actually keep it smelling good. All right, so here we're back to something very familiar in many parts of the world. I'm not sure where this is from, somewhere in Asia, I believe. Looking at the lady and what she's wearing, probably India. But this is one of the challenges. And again, we talked about injustice. And it really is a problem. It's a challenge for these ladies because of the smoke that comes out of these things. They're putting in wood, you know this, and you've seen it. You may have even done it. I don't know. But the point is that if they happen to be cooking indoors, or even if they're cooking outdoors, the smoke is going to be a problem. It's going to cause respiratory problems. It's also going to cause eye irritation. So it's quite dangerous for women to have to do this every day. So here's some options, some other ways of maybe approaching this. This is a can or a barrel that was actually for something else, and it's been cleaned. And then there's a pipe put on the top and a little kind of a guard in here. And then you can put the wood in the bottom. On the top here are a series of round places to be able to put pots. It's still using wood, which isn't the best, but the point about it is that there's no smoke that can affect the women. So this is a real improvement. And you can even use this indoors. This could easily be put indoors if this goes up through the roof, through the ceiling, so the smoke is taken away. So this is a very good device. This is a similar one, simpler. And you can see they're called rocket stoves. This one was made out of metal. And it's a similar principle where you're burning something down here, and then the heat is transferred up through the burning. There's a movement of air, hot air, and then you can grow stuff on the top. And if you look at what this is building blocks being used for a different purpose. So 4 building blocks put together like this to produce a really very effective rocket stove that the smoke does not go close to where you are at all. In fact, because of the air blowing through it, you don't get much smoke at all. And now there is another option. This one's not the only where it has some drawbacks. This is a piece of cardboard that sits in the shape of a V, and it's reflective. It has like a reflective surface here. You put your cooking pot in the middle, and that concentrates the sun's rays quite efficiently onto the pot. However, two drawbacks. One, it takes a long, long while to cook things like this. And secondly, what if it rains? You can't cook. Here's a party in a village, I forget where, Northern Africa, I believe. And everybody brings their little cooking stove, and then everything can be heated up and cooked, and then you have a family get together. So that's one option, but it's not, it's not as good as some of the others. So I hope that gives you an idea of, again, some possibilities. All of these are relatively simple. They're not complicated. They're not expensive. They're not technical in a way that nobody could understand. They're very easy to do. And they can be improved on. That's the other part of it. I love it when I go to a community and I find them that they took what we trained them to do and they take it to the next step. And they do stuff far beyond what we told them or what we trained them in. That to me is brilliant, because at that point, then not only have they embraced the technology, but they've also thought about it and improved it. And that to me is a wonderful thing. This is an interesting story about solar lamps. You've probably seen these. I don't know. I'm going to try to show a little video here, and hopefully we don't have technical problems again. This one is about a solar lamp that was invented by a guy on a YWAM outreach, believe it or not. See if we can find it. This is very interesting.
Hi, I'm John Henry, Director of Youth with a Missions Student Mobilization Center. Since 1986, we've mobilized students, integrating their studies with service projects all over the world. In 2003, we led a project into East Timor. One of the interns was an engineering student from Singapore. This is his story.
Hi, my name is Sian, and I come from Singapore. I always thought that I was going to be a full-time missionary somewhere, and my degree was something that I did just to make my parents happy. During the summer of 2003, I did my field ministry internship in East Timor. When I was evaluating different missions opportunities that summer, I chose FMI because I felt it addressed a felt need that I had to actively apply what I was learning in my mechanical engineering course in college into the missions field. We were sent as trailblazers into a remote village in East Timor, cut off from the outside world for 2 months. We lived with no running water, and we slept in tents under the stars at night. Part of the team that came to East Timor was a team of pre-meds, and they ran a clinic during the daytime for the villagers in the village. I remember one day at the clinic, a child came in with burns on half his face because a kerosene lantern had fallen on him during the night and just burned his face. This left an indelible mark on me to see how I could use what I was being trained for in college to make a tangible difference in the lives of people in developing countries. 3 years after this experience, I went on to start a company with some friends out of college that utilized my training in engineering and product design. My company is called Delight, and we design, manufacture, and sell solar LED lanterns to people in developing countries who live without electricity so that they don't have to be burned by kerosene lanterns, just like that little boy was in East Timor.
Just imagine if every student had the opportunity to take what they're learning in the classroom and offer it as a gift to a community in need in service to God. Xi'an's story is a powerful testimony of how one student moved by God can change the world.
That's something to think about, isn't it? That one person can make that amount of difference is pretty inspiring, I think. So that's another direction that people can take. And I think if you listen to what he said that what a difference it can make if somebody simply applies their gifts, their talents in the service of God. You never know what direction that might take you. Are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes, you do.
Oh, good. I'm getting a bit nervous about this now. Can I ask if anyone's got any thoughts about what you just saw?
It's good seeing different innovation, different people doing good things. And one of the things that really moved me was about a guy who did the Delight company. I never knew it has been done by somebody from where one. It's actually helping people in my rural place. I got a company. Yeah. So it's actually something that I've taken note about it, and now at least I know where the company come from, what was the idea behind that, and it's just amazing how it impacts many lives in the rural part of the country that I come from. So that's really nice. That's really good. It's an amazing job. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Wow, that makes me very, very thrilled to hear the impact from someone where you've received that. I think about children at night, who want to study, and that's what happened with that little boy. There was a kerosene lamp, and there was an accident. But these lamps, these solar powered lamps change all that, make it possible to study at night and to work at night. I wanted to explain, I hope this isn't boring to you, because I'm just kind of dumping all this stuff on you. I'm not expect you to remember everything, but I want to show you how many options and opportunities there are, even within technology, for things that can really help people. I wanted to ask you to raise your hand if you know what biogas is. Whoa. Okay, well then this is the game changer of the world. And that is not an exaggeration. What this is about, I'll show you. This is a diagram showing what it's about. You put kitchen waste and human waste and animal waste into a fermenter, which can be under the ground or on above ground, doesn't matter. But what happens is fermentation begins to occur, and it produces methane gas. And methane gas is really what you use for heating a house or doing cooking. So you see this. Here's a toilet. Here's animals. Here are waste products from the kitchen or from farming, all going into this big, big tank. And then methane gas coming out to be used in a house. And on top of that, you've got this wonderful, very, very rich fertilizer. It's odorless. When you take it out, it doesn't smell at all. So it's a benefit all around. It takes care of animal and human waste, and it generates two very, very useful products. This is what one of the tanks looked like. Our YWAM base in Samoa, specializes in the construction and the building of biogas systems. And this is some of the Samoan people at the base building one of these underground tanks that will be used for biogas. I'm not apologizing for this. These are the toilets on the base. This is the ladies' toilet. This is the men's toilet. And the waste coming out of the toilets is then going with the pig waste here to these tanks. These are the underground tanks that contain all of the waste products and will start to cause fermentation to produce gas and beautiful fertilizer. Their base has wonderful fruit trees and vegetables and everything because of the fertilizer they get from these units. And the other thing about it is I want to show you again, I'm sorry to keep bouncing around with videos, but there's no way that I can express it except by you seeing something here. I wanted to show you this. This is what you can do with biogas. Think about this, and this is what the YWAM base in Samoa is doing. They are using gas to produce electricity. Look at this. Oh, just to explain, on the right, in that blue bag, is methane gas that has come from the biogas units. They have 1, 2, 3 units, big units in YWAM Samoa, and they collect all the gas, which can then be used, in this case, for a gas-powered generator. This generator is from Germany. But have a look at this. This is pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing to me that they can do that. They are going to have 6 generators on their base. And with those 6 generators, they can produce all the electricity that they need for the base. They will be completely sustainable as a result without having to rely on electricity. The electricity goes off and on there. So to me, that's a pretty amazing thing. So biogas, to me, this is a world changer. I think, as time goes on, more and more people are using it. And here's the interesting thing about this. Let me just get back to where we were. I think, yes, I'm getting the hang of this now, I think. But just think for a minute. Well, I'll tell you what the base is doing. I won't tell you to think about it. I'll tell you what they're actually doing. They have now formed a team of people that can build these biogas systems. And then they send that team out to a village in Samoa, and they are able to help the people there to build their own biogas unit. And at the same time, they've been planting churches. It's pretty amazing. I forget what the number is now, but quite a number of villages now have both biogas as a power source and a small church. And then on top of that, they've been invited to go to Tonga and to Fiji and the Solomon Islands to take their team. So it's a really, I think, a very innovative way of doing evangelism, really. It's not one or the other, it's both. It's both practical and then also the biblical at the same time. So I love these kind of ideas because I think they are innovative and they're different. And very often they're very effective in places where something else wouldn't work necessarily. And then this is simple, but this is a man in the Philippines who invented this light to put in the roof. Now you've got to understand, he lives in a place where it's packed. It's a slum area, and the little shanties that everybody lives in don't have windows in at all. They're very dark. So what he discovered is that if he took an old plastic water bottle like this and filled it mainly with water up to about here, that when the sun hits this thing, it bends the light inside the bottle and then puts light out into the room. Now, obviously, this only works during the day. It's not going to work at night, but it does provide light in these little houses where there was no light before. Looks like this. There's the bottle. They usually add chlorine to the water to make sure it doesn't grow anything. And here's the light. It's really pretty amazing. So whereas before they had nothing, now they have this. And literally millions of homes now in some of these very poor areas now have these bottle lights. And that really helps to them to be able to study and cook and so on during the day. Again, very, very simple. It's what I talked about before, look around, just look what can you find? And this is one thing he realized, these bottles could be very useful. How about this one? This is very fascinating. This is a refrigerator, believe it or not. Doesn't look like a normal refrigerator, but what it is, it's a big pot, and inside is a small pot, and in between is sand. What you can do is if you wet the sand, so you put water in the sand, the water begins to evaporate. And when it's evaporating, it cools the inside container here. It looks like this. And it means that if you put a wet cloth on top, you can keep vegetables and fruit up to 10 days, which is remarkable. So this has an impact. Again, this is a long story and I won't go into it all, but this is an African man who had been trained in biology and chemistry and engineering, came back to his village and realized that the women had a very hard time because they would have to go to the market every single day to get fresh produce. And very often they will want to take their children with them, and then the children weren't in school. So he saw the possibility, if there was some way to preserve the fruit and the vegetables without needing electricity, because they didn't have electricity in the village, this would be a real step up. And this is what he invented. It's called the Zeer, that's Z-E-E-R pot, the Zeer pot. And this is a man who now actually works or is a consultant to the United Nations to be able to bring this kind of thing across the world, which is a real help for women. So that's another very impactful device and very, very simple. All right, now it's quiz time. What is this? Let me give you some background, so I'll give you a little bit of a clue, okay? This is a rice paddy, you know that, and it's terraced. So I think this is Indonesia. And so the water, I wonder if I have a picture. Wait a minute. Do I have a picture? Yeah. It looks a bit like this. Okay, so you've got water at the top and it flows down through terraces. So this is catching the water from one terrace level, and then it goes down to the next level. Okay. What is it? It's made of bamboo. I'll tell you that. It's got a little kind of pivot. So this thing, this whole thing can move. This right here is blocked. It's blocked. The water, can you see the water here coming in?
No, it's okay. Let them explain.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it looks like a lever to pick the rice plants, because I see the
Okay.
plants at the end, but I'm not sure.
Not sure.
If it's not, then I need to think again.
If you ever had kids that had these little birds that can feed and then pop back up again, I'm not sure we have those anymore. It might give you a clue. Okay, water coming in at the top.
Okay.
This is blocked off right here.
Well,
So what happens when this fills up? What do you think?
it will tip. It will move to the other side. It will.
Right. So if you put water in here, then the balance is disturbed, right? And so what will happen? Lots of water in here, nothing over here. What happens?
Gravity.
What will happen if this fills up with water? This is heavier now than this side. So what will happen?
Gravity goes down.
Yes. So this thing will tilt, right? It'll tilt. And then what? What happens next?
I think then the rice paddy goes up into maybe a bag for harvesting.
No, actually, it's simpler than that. Even simpler. Think about it. Okay, it fills up with water. It tilts. What will happen to the water?
Flow out again, and it will go back.
Yes, yes. Because it tilts out like this, the water will run out, right? And then what?
It will go back again.
Yes, it would go back up again. Okay. So you've got something happening here, right? As the water comes in, It tilts, empties, comes back up again. Tilts, empties, and comes back again. Right? So that's what's going to happen. So how could that be a help? Why would you have something like this in your field?
Aeration.
Sorry?
Aeration.
Aeration, that's part of it, but there's something very much more basic than that. If you have a small amount of water coming in, what would that be as far as the tilt is concerned? Small amount of water, slow, 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 filling up. Take a little while, right, before it's full. Then it would tilt and come back up again. What if there's a lot of water coming down here from above? What will happen to this thing? What do you think?
It will go
Lots.
faster.
Yes, it will go faster, right? So when the flow of water is slow, it will be slow. When the flow of water is high, it will go fast, right? If you could put one of these at several points along your rice field, your rice terraces, you as the farmer could just stand there and look and see where the water is flowing a lot and where the water is flowing only a little. And you can adjust it until you get everything even and the water is coming down at a fairly consistent rate across the whole terrace. So what this is a very, very simple flow meter. It measures flow, and it's used routinely in Indonesia. That all the farmer has to do is watch. He just has to stand there for a little while and watch these things moving, and he can tell him immediately where the water's coming and how it needs to be changed so that it's even across everything. And I thought to myself, if I were a Westerner and somebody had given me that problem, like how can we measure the flow? I would have all kinds of meters and computer chips and smartphones and wireless connections and all of that. But look at this. This is less than $1 to produce it. And it's very, very effective and used a lot. You know, this has been around for over 1,000 years in Indonesia, 1,000 years. People are very innovative and very creative. I think it's really cool, actually. All right, now, let me just give you some other ideas here. I showed you this before as a terrace. Do you notice that the water is changing color going down here? This is a filter system for water. So dirty water at the top, and then here is like a barrier made of sand, and then another one, and another one. And the further down it goes, the more it gets filtered. And the water at the bottom is a lot cleaner than it was at the top. That's standard practice for cleaning water. But here's another possibility. I wonder how many of you know this tree, the moringa tree. You may know it in your own location or culture with a different name. It has about a dozen different names around the world. Anybody heard of the moringa? Raise your hand if there's anyone that is familiar. Aha. Okay. Is it called moringa, or is it called something else?
Drumstick, I think it's, yeah.
Does it have another name?
Yes, in our own language we call it with another name, but it's the same.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
You recognize the tree?
Yes,
This is an amazing tree, actually. We have some here on our base, but we don't really use it much. But this is really crucial around the world because it has so many uses. For a start, it grows very, very quickly, up to about 10 meters. And I planted some here, and I spend most of my time trying to cut it down because it grows so fast. It's almost like a weed, but it's really amazing. Here are the leaves, and the leaves have one of the highest protein content of any leaf in the world. Much, much more than almost any other plant you could think of. So what you can do here with this, you can put it in a salad, and it's a sort of a spicy taste. It's quite good. Or you can dry it and then make a powder out of it and then add it to something else. Like you can use it for animals or you can use it for babies actually in their formula. And it will help them to grow because of the high protein content. The other thing is down here, these little white seeds here, if you crush them up and put them into water, you can clarify water. Look at this. This is dirty water that we got from somewhere. We added these seeds and we let it settle. So it's like snow. It's like they call it flock or flocculent. And it just simply grabs a hold of all the dirty stuff. And then it settles to the bottom. So this is after 20 minutes. It's not perfect, but that water is about 75% better than this water in terms of being able to use it for drinking. So to me, that's a real plus, actually. And an amazing plant. And the thing about it is, and again, can't go into all the details here, but when you look at where it grows in just the place it's needed, which is in the middle section of the earth, where there's lack of good nutrition and there's food insecurity. This is perfect for this. So that is amazing. That's what it grows to look like eventually. I was in Samoa, going back to the YWAM base there, and I was talking to them about this plant, about this tree. And I said, do you have this here on the island, Samoa? And they said, no, at least we don't think so. And then an older lady said, well, wait a minute. I remember seeing something like this here on the island somewhere, but I don't remember where. So we jumped into a truck and we started driving. We drove and we drove and we drove. And after I don't know how many hours of driving, she said, stop, look over there. And there was a moringa tree, this tree. And she said, that's the tree. So we went in to see the owner and we said, could we take a little piece of the tree, a cutting? And they said, yes, you can, but don't take too much. Just take a small piece. So we took it back to the base. They planted it and they grew it. Now they have quite a number of moringa trees on the base, and they use the leaves for salad and the powder for increasing protein for the animals that they have. It's really amazing plant. God's gift, I think. Well, here we are. I think we take a break. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Soon?
time to take up, or you take maybe 2-3 minutes. If you need 9:30, yeah, we take a break.
That's right. I'll take a break at 9:30.
Yes.
Or what time is the long break?
It's now.
This is the long break.
Oh, okay. I thought so. Okay, well, I've just dumped all these ideas on you, not because I think that you necessarily will be involved in them, but just so that you know that these are expressions of God's kingdom values that we can bring all around the world. And to me, that's very, very satisfying. By the way, it's not that we're saying you shouldn't preach the gospel. In my mind, this is the gospel. But so that we need the written word and the spoken word, but we also need this as well. We need these things that we can bring to people that can bring health and justice and peace. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. So why not? I just wanted to show you what YWAM is doing in terms of these areas. And we have these 4 areas that we work in YWAM that are related to community technology. One is food, and that's agricultural projects, food security, nutrition. We have energy. We are doing quite a few energy projects right here on our base. Wind energy we're doing. And of course, biogas is energy also, produces methane gas. And then water, my field, water, sanitation, and hygiene education. And then last of all, construction. We have groups around the world, one in Korea, one in Brazil, and they are teaching construction and repair. And in Samoa, they also teach construction, buildings, and would you believe it, canoes. They have a seminar in canoe construction because canoes are very, very important in their culture. And it's a dying art. The people that know how to make canoes are getting old and passing away. They don't want to lose that tradition in Samoa. And so our base there is running a 2-week seminar in building a canoe. I asked them, how do you get an A in that course? And they said, well, if the canoe stays up and floats, then you get an A. If the canoe sinks, you don't. Anyway, that's the story. So let's leave it at that and let's take our break. You get sound? Oh, a canoe. Somebody was asking about what a canoe is. This is a canoe. This is actually very similar to the one that YWAM Samoa makes. It's made from a single tree trunk just by cutting and then sculpting it and to make a form like this. And so that is a canoe, and it's a seminar that is offered by YWAM Samoa in construction, canoe construction. And the other thing I wanted to, before we jump into what the rest is, just wanted to show this picture. This is really very exciting last night. This was the honoring of 10 graduates from the Masters in Trauma and Restoration. They've done a 2.5-year program, and they are graduating this week. And such a joy to see them graduating with a very good degree that will help them with counseling. This gentleman on the end here is the one shown up here in the picture, Humphrey, from Ghana. And then there were people from New Zealand, from Korea, from South Africa, from America, from from Scotland, from France, all over. This is YWAM, and it was really a beautiful time to honor all those people. So on Wednesday, they graduate. It'll be a very special occasion. Okay, science and the future. This is just going to be some fun. To think about where we might be going. In a way, it's fun, but it's also serious because we have to think about what's our part, what are our values. As we have a biblical Christian worldview, you know it's something that develops. It's not I have a biblical Christian worldview. I do, but I'm going to listen and I'm going to pray and I'm going to develop that Christian worldview with time. And as more and more things become available and more issues become available, then we will want to think more about what our Christian worldview. It's no good having a Christian worldview that isn't relevant to the present and to the future as well. So I just thought we could take a long look into the future, not actually very far. In many cases, these things are already here. But look at this. This is just some of the things. I threw all these together. The things that we're hearing about all the time these days. And we've already talked about some of the places where Christians already disagree. But there's much more to it. And I know that we shouldn't be overly optimistic because we have something called original sin. But honestly, I am impressed by the amount of creativity that there is in the world now, both in the developed world and in the majority world, to produce new things that will help us in our lives. And that's what it's all about. So in my mind, I'm sorry, it's exaggerating a little bit, but scientific discovery is exciting. It really is. We talked about that at the very beginning, that discovering things is a joy. It really is. And it's part of what God has given to us. And he enjoys us discovering things as well. But as always, when he gives us these brand new possibilities, he also wants to see how we use them. And more, the discoveries we're making have implications. They have implications for life and for death and for the quality of life. And also they have implications for injustice and lack of equality and so on. Lots of different things that come out of this. The more we discover, the more choices we have to make. Again, I just put this list to sort of overwhelm you. These are just a few of the areas that we're dealing with these days, and they're not really that far in the future. Some of these, in fact, most of these already, we're walking down that road. And there are many others that we'll be thinking about. Again, I'm not trying to overwhelm you or bore you or anything. I'm just saying these are some of the things that are going to impinge on us, whether we're scientists or not. That's not the point. These things will impinge on our lives, and they will change the way we live and the way our children live and the way our children's children live if Jesus doesn't come back before that. So here's an area which we didn't talk about as a contentious area. Remember, we had that list. This is the one that nobody chose, but it really is something to think about. And that is, should we care for God's creatures and their welfare? And how should we do that? There are extremes in this, obviously, but you know that these factory farms are quite awful places, actually, in terms of the way animals are treated, how chickens are treated, and so on. And I have I have the unusual qualification that I worked in a slaughterhouse for a while. And so I saw this firsthand. I saw the animals. We had sheep, we had cows, and we had chickens in the slaughterhouse. And I don't know. I mean, it was quite disturbing. I was particularly struck by the cows as they were brought to be slaughtered, because they knew what was going on. They could hear the sounds of their predecessors who were slaughtered. They heard that sound, they smelt that smell, they knew what that was. And so they were very, very frightened in that state. And it was hard to deal with, to be honest. You know, we're completely isolated from those kind of thoughts, because we just go to the market and we pick up the chicken and it's all nicely wrapped. We pick up the beef and it's nicely wrapped, or we go get a hamburger and it's nicely presented. But what we don't know or don't have a lot of thought about is, how are those animals treated? And here's a question. I mean, there's some theology involved in there too. Again, I'm not trying to say we should all stop eating meat. I don't believe that's correct. But there is some thought that needs to be given to where our meat comes from and how the animals are treated before they ended up on our plate. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail. We could dig quite deep. My oldest son whose name is Andrew, you see here. He's helped to write a book. He's a philosopher, and he runs a course at the university where he is. He's at Princeton. And the course is called The Ethics of Eating. And that course is extremely popular. Young people today are really thinking about it. It's about health. Well, let me say this. I won't show you some of these videos because you would get very upset, but here are some of the reasons why people become vegan or vegetarian. And I just think we ought to think about these things and then make our decisions. We don't a lot of the time. Number one is, of course, the impact of many, many animals that are kept for farming on the environment, the methane gas that they produce, the waste that they produce, and the water that they use. It is incredible, the amount of water. If you look up the numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but there are liters and liters and liters of water needed for even one animal. And so if we insist on eating meat, we have to think about that. We have to think about the methane gas that produces a change in the climate, maybe. We have to think about the waste. What do we do with all the waste products? And then we have to also think about other areas, like, for instance, the waste, and so on. I'm saying my things twice over here, but really worth thinking about anyway. And then the second thing is protecting animals as God's creature. There is a book, and I put it here. This is actually a book written actually by a friend of my son's, Compassionate Eating, or it's sometimes called humane eating, caring about animals. Now, you might say, oh my goodness, why would we care about a cow? I mean, there are people dying from lack of good water and lack of nutrition. So why should we care about cows? Well, they're God's creatures, that's all. And it just, we need to be thoughtful about that in terms of the amount of misuse, mistreatment of animals that may be going on. So the other part of it also is the fact that, and this is just a fact, it's not anything, it's not just my opinion, but people that are vegetarians, like say Seventh-day Adventists and some other groups like that, they live on average 7 years longer than anyone else. And the only difference between them and us is they don't eat meat. Oh, they also don't drink coffee or tea, and they don't drink alcohol. So I guess there's more to it than perhaps just the meat issue. But I think we know that large amounts of meat are not necessarily good for you. So there you are. These are some of the considerations that we need to make for the future. And the fact is that we don't have enough. At the moment, we don't have enough meat for everybody. And so I'm going back to this because of this term here, meatless meat. Whatever does that mean? Well, it means meat that was generated in big fermenters instead of coming from a cow. Now, a few cells will come from a cow in a non-intrusive way. We take those cells, we culture them up, we grow them, and we grow them into more and more meat. And eventually we can eat it. And you probably know that in Singapore, already hamburgers are available that are meatless. I guess they are actually meat. And so maybe what, instead of using, excuse me, instead of using the term meatless meat, probably what we should say is manufactured meat, as opposed to being developed, from a cow. So it's just something to think.
I am summarizing.
Just something to think about. I just have some fun things to show you. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this, but This is a trend towards tattoos. And we all have our opinions about tattoos, whether they're good or bad. But now they have what are called smart tattoos, which you can use to measure your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and other things like that, just by pressing part of the tattoo. So we've got, something there. I mean, that is totally, I can't think of that as being particularly useful, but anyway, it's one thing that has been developed. Now we have these two things, augmented reality and virtual reality, AR and VR. And these are not the same. And again, you may not know, but I want to make sure you do know now what the difference is and what these are. Augmented reality is taking reality and adding to it. So it's not imaginary, it's real. But you're just taking that's real and you're adding to it. I can show you here just something that's fun. You know, this is how augmented reality could be used, is being used. There you go, Star Wars in augmented reality. Now that's just a use for fun, but actually it's very, very useful for people working on mechanical things. Like if they're working in a factory making cars or repairing cars or making any other kind of thing, they can wear glasses. They look like ordinary glasses. You may have seen them. But what it does is it brings up information. As you look at the different parts of the car, it will tell you more about how to undo it, how to repair it, what pieces you need, and so on. It's all in front of you, in your glasses, as you're working. And that is going to become extremely common these days, and you will see it. If you haven't seen it already, it's coming. Now, the other thing, again, I can't give a lot of examples here, but is virtual reality. That is really going into a world that doesn't exist. It's not real, but it appears to be real. And I'm going to give you the extreme example here of church, virtual reality church. It really exists. Here we go. How about this?
You've probably heard about the metaverse, but what is it and how do you get there? We're about to show you how it all works using a setting you're probably familiar with. We're going to church, unlike you've ever seen it before. It may look like animation, but the characters on your screen aren't cartoon pixels playing church. They represent real people worshiping in the world of virtual reality.
Bless everyone here with whatever they're going through. And in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
This is church in the metaverse, where users in the real world wear VR headsets to guide their avatar selves into a simulated immersive experience. And it's gaining interest among the curious and the faithful.
We found that the environment was just a rich environment for ministry.
Oklahoma-based Life Church now has a campus in the metaverse to add to its 40 other locations.
So we always say if we're going to reach people that no one else is reaching, we're going to have to do some things that no one else is doing. That is really just more of our DNA in general, and that when there's new technologies and new platforms and all the new attention that the metaverse is getting today, we want to be present and we want to learn and understand how we can do ministry in it.
Hey, are you coming?
Yeah, just got to find something to wear.
Facebook's dive into the digital dimension helped it gain attraction and legitimacy, with major players from gaming,
some call it skill,
fashion,
welcome semblance, the fashion's entry to the metaverse,
and even healthcare lining up to unleash its potential. Last year, people dropped more than $500 million to get a piece of the metaverse's real estate. While some see it as a revenue generator, a growing number of faith leaders believe it's just another platform to promote the gospel.
There has been this shift of this kind of like fringe technology, fringe experience that's now starting to become mainstream.
DJ Soto launched VR Church in 2016 and predicts a place in the metaverse will soon become just as common as a church's website and social media are today.
By 2030, your main experience for your church will be in the metaverse.
He points to another major benefit.
When you start to experience church in the metaverse, you start to see this whole world of forgotten people who want to be part of a spiritual community, and maybe they don't have a way to be connected to one.
That's what hit home for Alina Delp.
For probably the first couple, 2 or 3 services, I just cried.
A former flight attendant and thrill seeker, she's been confined to her home due to a rare neurovascular condition. For her, streaming had its limitations.
You could watch others be part of the church, but you couldn't be part of the church. And if anything, that just saddened me.
Discovering VR Church gave her a sense of community, initially volunteering as a greeter, then leading a small group. After enrolling in seminary, Alina is now part of the pastoral team, ministering to people from all over the world and from all walks of life.
In VR, people are very open about where they are. There's not the facade. They don't put on their Sunday best and pretend that everybody's a grade A student and life is wonderful. And but they're really honest about what's happening in their lives, which allows us to pastor better.
Skeptics question everything from safety in the virtual reality movement to sound theology to justify its use. Pastor Bobby Grunwald, who developed the YouVersion Bible app, believes the debate over virtual versus physical boils down to reaching people where they are.
We are for meeting in buildings. We're big proponents of it. We have a multi-site church. We meet in 39 different locations physically. We're part of local communities, but we also feel like we have these tools available today that have never been available before in human history that allow us and give us the opportunity to connect and reach people that we otherwise would not be able to reach.
Soto counters that the metaverse is smart use of technology, like when the late Billy Graham went on radio and TV to evangelize the masses.
We're connecting with people digitally, virtually, over airways, if you will, and the relationships and the community and the connections, the salvation and the discipleship is just as powerful as anything that we've seen in the past.
For Life Church, church in the metaverse isn't about choosing the physical over the virtual. It's about the mandate to reach people with the gospel and one of their mantras, which is to do anything short of sin to reach people who don't know Christ. And to reach people no one is reaching, they'll have to do things no one is doing. John Jessup, CBN News, Oklahoma City.
Okay. I was at a party the other night, and there was a pastor there and his wife. And she said, when I mentioned this kind of thing, I would be sharing it. She said, that is not church. So what do you think? I'd love to have a little bit of a discussion here. Is that really church? What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to say because we are called to be a community in what you say, not in reality fellowship things, yeah. But it's like the lady who shared, those who can't go physically to the church, maybe it.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it should not just be that in the metaverse that she's with the others there, but it should also be like some, even though she's how to say, can't go physically to the church, but still, yeah, there should be, if she's a part of the church, then there should be people like who would always connected, always reach out to her, being there physically with her. Yeah.
Okay, how many of you would go to VR Church? Okay. My encouragement is do it. Go and join and see what it's like. You don't have to go all the time, but you can at least, and I'm not suggesting you replace normal church with this, but it's a very, very interesting experience. I've done it a few times just to see what it's like. And it takes some getting used to. It really does. Because, they showed those avatars. Each of them represents a person, but sometimes they don't look like a human being at all. If they have some other kind of avatar, for instance, one time I went and I was sitting next to an elephant on one side and a ballerina on the other side. And it was a little off-putting, to say the least. But is there a place for this? What do you think? Any other opinions on this? What do you think? Yes, right.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think it's really important that it's a balance. And like they mentioned that the VR church is another platform to reach unreached people. It's not, I don't think of it as a thing where, and one of the pastoral leaders I think her name was Alfie or Delphi, one of the two. Anyways, but she said herself is that she has a condition where she physically can't go to the church. So having that VR church as a kind of a spiritual community and a spiritual body, I think it's also good. I think it's like if you believe that church is a building, like solely a building of religious or organized worship, that's true, but it's also, I feel like, most important than that, than like a physical place, physical gathering. I think it's more, it can also be a very much so a spiritual community, right? That is, focused on sharing the gospel, focusing on the message. And, and of course now you can like talk about, like what they preach or who gets to say what. And, also obviously VR church needs to have structure too, but I think people outright, rejecting it, I think it's a little bit, in a way, like narrow-minded because we're living in a generation where technology innovation is very right? And I think it's very important to keep church traditions and religious rituals or whatever denomination you are. But I think it's also like it's an open platform where anyone can come and anyone can really be able to open up to themselves spiritually, right? While not even physically being there, but at the same time, they're like physically present, like. Yeah. So like, and of course, like with the thing with avatars, and I think it's like, it's always good or bad. Like there's always a balance to it. You can have, like your avatar is like a representation of yourself and how you think of yourself, right? So obviously you can have a conversation with that. But I think overall, I think VR church can be a positive thing if regulated correctly and if it's rooted properly within our biblical standards, right? And I think. Thank you. So I think I'm all for it, right? But I also understand sides of people being a little bit skeptical about it. 100%, I could already see some ways where it can be questionable. However, I think overall, it's like if we have a person that is called and anointed and has biblical values to lead this, but also has a gift to be like technologically rooted and also innovative in this world, then I think it can reach a lot of people in a different way.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else that would like to either agree or not agree? Yes.
Yes,
that's Joshua, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it is a very great tool to use because if the world is moving with innovation, us as Christians too should have better ways to go and reach the world. And these are good platforms that we can do that. If the people are getting into games, they are getting into pornography, into this virtual world, why can't us as Christians take the word to them in that world? So I think it's another platform that you can reach these people who actually don't think that they exist in this world. They only exist in that world. And it's an opportunity and we should take.
Thank you. Wow, we've got a positive, in general, a positive opinion here, I think. Would you say, you know, in the scripture it says, not forsaking the assembling of us together? What do you think? Are we assembling together if we're in VR church? I'm only pushing you a little bit, you know. I totally agree with what you've said, but some people might say, well, you know, that's really not church because you're not assembling together. You're not in person together. Anybody got any thoughts? Balsam, you look very, very thoughtful.
I need time to formulate what I think. I don't agree with what they say, but I don't have the word to explain what I'm thinking yet.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it is a bit strange, isn't it? It's just so different from what we're used to. I mean, what I'm wondering is there's a dynamic to being together personally that nothing else can really substitute for, right? I mean, what I'm doing with you right now is not 100% satisfactory. I would love it if I could be there in person, and it wouldn't be the same. If I were there, it would be a different dynamic. I know, because we'd be in each other's presence. Do you think that maybe VR church is losing something really essential? Do you think? I think is that George?
Yes.
What do you think, George?
Yeah, I think just to contribute on the first question, it all depends with the connection we have with God and the principle that we follow about church. Because even in the normal setup, we find that especially maybe for the few church, maybe one church I've gone here in the Western world, you will find other people sitting and using mobile phones and it's going on. The service is going on. Some are seated, some are worshiping, and I don't see that we have connection there. I don't know, I can be all right. But we are in the same room or in the same year, and different people doing different things at the same time. And it's actually, to me, I don't see a big difference with the other side. If that one will bring connection, it's okay. Yeah, because we also have issues we are fighting on now, even in church, when you are physically present. So it all goes to your connection with God and how you connect with other people. So yeah, that was my contribution to that. It's about your heart.
Thank you. That's very helpful, actually, I think. Do you think it's a bit sort of dishonest to have an avatar that doesn't really look like you? You're sort of hiding behind a mask, you know, in one sense. You're not really being yourself. And so in that VR church, they know you as whatever it is you look like, but they don't really know you. I mean, you could be a woman and you're looking like a man. You know, you could do a lot of different things. Do you think that's kind of a problem? I see a hand back there.
Yes, not only to your question, but for the whole concept of this church. I would try to put it something like this: the technology or anything is it's good for us, but it still need, it should not be a master, it should serve people. That would be something. I think it is of technology said there's a bad master but good servant. So I would come with the approach to allow people to have more innovative ideas, but nothing really replaces having a person next to you and you can express. We have problem in the churches, as George said, or in the church that you just showed us to give a thought. So it really to guard your heart, guard your walk with God, but yeah, let's be open for technology, for people, because even Paul had different approach to bring gospel to different people, but it should not over really go to, it should also have its boundaries and approach and presented and preserved correctly. That would be the danger or the risk to have it like that.
Mm.
It is a good slave, but a bad master, I would say.
Yeah. Actually, I'm just thinking about what I just said. I said, well, your avatar doesn't have to be you, right? I mean, it could look like something entirely different. But then I'm just thinking, we sometimes put on an act, don't we? I mean, what people see is not who we really are. Sometimes, our internal whatever may be quite different from what we look on the outside. So, that isn't much different in a way, Richie,
Yeah.
you look very thoughtful. Oh, and Emmy, I think you had something to say
I was
too.
going to say something, but Richie can also go.
Okay.
Yeah, what you said, of course you can put on a mask, but I think, I mean, I don't want to dismiss this virtual church. I mean, I think it certainly can have a place. But as you already said, like, yeah, there's also a danger in it that it goes like, yeah, I don't know, in a wrong direction.
Yeah.
But also, like, when you are in a virtual church and you have this avatar, or when you are actually physical coming together, and it doesn't have to be church building. I believe the church is people, believers that are coming together and meet and see God and
Yeah.
worship and just people coming together. And that can be great. I mean, I am not against it in that sense, but I think it cannot be a replacement because it's harder to hide if you are really physical present, like you see each other, you can touch each other, I would almost say, and I also believe, being physically,
Present.
it's
Present.
very important. Yeah. Being able to look in each other's eyes. That there's also like a whole non-verbal communication that takes place, which you cannot have in a virtual church. And I also believe, when I think about our discipleship schools, they could not be virtual because discipleship takes place in living together, in sharing the same bathroom, in cleaning, in all these things, in the daily interactions where you have also the frustrations of somebody wants the window open, the other wants the window closed, and how to work that out. I believe that is discipleship. And it's wonderful in a virtual church, you can avoid all these things, you can program it.
Yeah. Well, you could ask them to open the window, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But what you hit on actually, Emmy, is something that's been discussed a lot while COVID was happening. There was a lot of requests from bases to run electronic DTS, like everybody online. And that was not accepted because of what you said, Emmy, that there's something about living together and working together and playing together, as well as sitting in a classroom together, that is part of the transformational process. Richie, do you have some wisdom for us?
Well,
I really have I'm really few opinionated and with few words. So what I'm thinking is the root cause or whatever the problem is ultimately it is with us. It is not with technology, because technology is to help us, but at the same time, it is us in how we are using it. I think the virtual church is trying to cultivate a place where, when you're not able to attend church service physically, you can be there virtually. And the way I'm seeing it, it's like it is giving you an opportunity to express as much as you can through technology. But at the same time, it is again dependent on us if we want to hide our data, like to hide our gender or to hide our face. That's not the problem with technology, that's the problem with us.
Yeah.
When you have church nearby you, instead of like being lazy not to attend to the physical church, if you are using technology just because to make you feel comfortable at home, then again that's our problem. It's not technology. So I think technology, in a way, we created to make humans together, but it is we who are using it in a different way so that we are separating from each other. So it is all about finding balance. That's what I'm thinking.
That's very good thinking. I mean, we're all in the process of thinking, you know, we don't all have answers yet at all. But I would highly recommend that you go and try it. See what you think. I mean, even if you only try it once, go just sign up for VR Church and just experience it and see what you think. It's fascinating, actually, when you do that. Okay, well, this is really good. It won't go away, that's for certain. It's here to stay. And as you say, you want to use it to the very best that you can. So, okay, well, let's move on a little bit, see what else we can find. Let's see. Yeah, so is that really church? I think we would agree that yes, it is church, but we need to be careful and not allow the technology to control us, but that we stay controlling the technology. So that's good. But what I did, just for fun, maybe because I'm lazy, I don't know, but I decided I wanted to find out where AI, artificial intelligence, is going. So I thought, why don't I ask artificial intelligence, where are you going? And that's what I did. I went to an AI site and I said, you tell me, where are you going as AI? How are you going to be used in the future? And it came up with three things. And I thought this is kind of interesting. So I put this here on this slide. Let me see if we can make it bigger. Yeah, there we go. So it gave me three things. Number one was healthcare. And this is what it said. So these are not my words. This is AI speaking. And it's just telling us, telling me, telling you that AI is going to really, really help us when it comes to detecting and treating illness. And this will be really quite significant. I wanted to show you an example. This is an example. It will enable us to diagnose illnesses much more accurately than happens today. Think about it. At the moment, you go to the doctor and you have certain symptoms. He is thinking, okay, from all the people that I've ever had in this office, I pretty much know what it is that's going on, right? But here is something with AI, okay? Look at this. This is a remarkable example. This is breast cancer. This is a woman that has a tumor here, breast cancer tumor. 4 years before that, this was her scan, and no doctor and no radiologist picked up the fact that she had cancer. They missed it. They did this with AI and asked AI, what do you see? The AI immediately homed in on this area and said, this is potentially going to be cancer. And here, 4 years later, they found it. Now that to me is incredible, because it means that you can diagnose things early and treat things early before they get to be really, really serious. So that's one example. Now, what else have we got? Well, second one is language processing. I don't have time to show all of this, but I do want you to see one thing, and that is, while I'm fooling around here, this is, let me explain this. What this is all about is AI can translate things easily from one language to another. And I haven't got time to show you a video on that, but there's a project right now called No Language Left Behind. It's not Christian, but they are taking 200 languages, and they're going to have at the end of it the ability to translate from any one of the 200 into any one of the 200. And then on top of that, the next project that they're going to work on is 7,000 languages, instant translation from one language to another. So I decided to try something out here. We have an introduction to our college. And here it is. This is how we produced it in the first place.
Hello, my name is Dereck Kerbo, and I'm one of the deans for the College of Science and Technology at the University of the Nations. Today we're going to have a short presentation to tell you about science and technology, to see how it works in ministry, the different trainings that are offered, the practical expressions that we have, and how you can get involved in using science and technology in your own ministries and reaching people around the world in various ways, using what we call the two-handed gospel. So sit back, enjoy this, and let us tell you more about our college and how we can help you reach the goals that God has given you. Thank you.
Okay, that was English. What about this?
Bonjour, je suis Dereck Kerbo, doyen de la Faculté des sciences et de la technologie à l'Université des Nations. Aujourd'hui, nous ferons une brève présentation pour expliquer la science et la technologie au ministère, les formations disponibles, les expressions pratiques et comment vous pouvez vous impliquer en utilisant la science et la technologie dans vos ministères et en atteignant les gens du monde entier de différentes manières avec l'Évangile à deux mains. Asseyez-vous, profitez. Laissez-nous vous en dire plus sur notre collège et comment nous pouvons vous aider à atteindre vos objectifs. Merci.
What do you think? That's entirely AI. Dr. Kerbo, this man here, does not speak one word of French, but it translated his speech into French and then enabled him to speak it. It looks pretty convincing, you've got to admit. So we actually gave it to a French speaker and they said, that's pretty good, actually. It's not bad. So we translated it. We now have it in Korean, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English. And we did it literally overnight. It's very simple to do. I only give you that as an example to indicate, we're in a new era now. And even in the University of the Nations, when you think about it, this is giving us things that we could never do before. So I won't give you that because we're running out of time, but there is this program called No Language Left Behind. You can look at it online if you like. Okay. What was the other thing AI told me? Very important. Autonomous vehicles. This is cars that run on their own. You've seen this, I'm sure. The question is this going to become normal? And I think probably the answer is yes. There may come a day in your lifetime when you don't need a car at all, because you can just simply order one up on your smartphone. It will come to you. You will sit in it and it will take you where you need to go. It's really quite exciting, fascinating actually. But here's the thing to think about. When there's an accident, what does the car decide to do? What if the car had the choice between hitting a crowd of people and killing a few people and destroying the car and killing the driver? You now have two options. You can have a car that protects the people out there, the pedestrians, or you could have a car that protects you, the driver. Which is it going to be? There's some thinking about that. You need to know what would be your choice. Okay, so those are some of our things. I won't show you that, but there are some dangers with AI. Again, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but I do want to say that this is one of the areas that we'll see an increase, and that is in the use of AI in so many different ways. We will be making our hamburgers using robots and AI. We will be translating languages. We will be driving our cars. We will be doing all kinds of stuff using AI. And it's not going to stop. Oh, and it's going to help us write our papers too. And that's already an issue. And I'm not going to ask you where you are on that, but I can tell you that many, many students are actually using it already to write papers. And that's a question, if I give you a project to do, and then you come back with a paper, and you got it from ChatGPT or some other AI thing, is it yours? And should I grade it as though it's yours? It really isn't yours. You had something else do it for you. Is that okay? Or should we say, no, you cannot use AI. You cannot use ChatGPT. Banned. Stop. Well, the fact is the whole world is already using it. And you could stop. That wouldn't help because everybody else is doing it anyway. So we have some things to think about in the future. And I thought I'd just pass a few of those on. There's a great deal of hope, a great deal of excitement, but also some thoughtfulness needed as we move into the next part of this century. So I think I'll just end up there, and because we've only got 5 minutes left now. But I hope this has given you some ideas and some thoughts. I probably have left you totally confused in some areas, but that's okay. That's where you start. You have to listen, get confused, think about it, talk about it, pray about it, and then you begin to form some opinions out of that. And that's exciting in its own way. Thank you, Seema.
Yeah, sure.